I now give the floor to the Secretary General, His Excellency, Mr. António Guterres.
Senhor Presidente, muito obrigado por me ter convidado para informar o Conselho sobre este tema tão importante, relembrando a contribuição fundamental que Berta Luz deu à Carta das Nações Unidas e aos Direitos das Mulheres. Excellencies, nombre d'entre vous ont visité l'exposition présentée à l'extérieur du bâtiment de l'ONU. Vous avez vu les images de ces femmes qui incarnent le programme dont nous discutons aujourd'hui. Des femmes qui luttent contre l'injustice, bâtissent la paix et prennent la place qui leur revient à la table des négociations. C'est là un aperçu de l'immense contribution des femmes à la paix et à la sécurité dans le monde. C'est aussi un témoignage du pouvoir de leadership des femmes. Le monde doit en prendre note et il doit s'en inspirer. Car aujourd'hui, nous sommes au bord du précipice. Les conflits font rage, les tensions montent, les coups d'État éclatent. L'autoritarisme est en marche, la menace nucléaire prend de l'ampleur, le chaos climatique exacerbe les problèmes de sécurité et la méfiance empoisonne les affaires mondiales et affaiblit notre capacité à réagir. Les chiffres parlent d'eux-mêmes quant à l'état désastreux du monde dans lequel nous vivons. Les dépenses militaires ont atteint un niveau record, l'ampleur des déplacements dus à la violence, aux conflits, aux persécutions atteint un niveau record, et le nombre de femmes et de filles vivant dans des pays menacés par les combats a augmenté de 50% par rapport à 2017. Là où les guerres font rage, les femmes souffrent. Là où règne l'autoritarisme et l'insécurité, les droits des femmes et des filles sont menacés. Nous le voyons partout dans le monde, au Soudan et en Haïti, où les femmes et les jeunes filles sont brutalisées et terrorisées par la violence sexuelle. En Afghanistan, où le déni des droits fondamentaux des femmes anéantit des vies et prive les populations d'une aide vitale. Et en Ukraine, où les femmes et les jeunes filles qui fuient l'invasion russe risquent d'être la proie de trafiquants et d'agresseurs. Au Moyen-Orient, où les femmes et les filles sont touchées de manière disproportionnée par la violence, les effusions de sang et les déplacements forcés. Des femmes et des jeunes filles font partie des nombreuses victimes des atrocités brutales commises par la Hamas, et plus de la moitié des victimes des bombardements incessants sur Gaza sont des femmes et des enfants. Des dizaines de milliers de femmes enceintes essaient désespérément d'accéder à des soins de santé essentiels. Mr. President, the grim backdrop gives renewed urgency to efforts to ensure women's full and meaningful participation in peace and security. 23 years after this Council adopted Resolution 1325, women's participation should be a default, not an afterthought. But that is not the case. Women are leading efforts on peace, justice, and rights around the world, but still, far too many women's organizations struggle to fund their essential work as military spending soars. Far too many perpetrators of sexual violence walk free, and far too many peace processes exclude women. Of 18 peace agreements reached last year, only one was signed or witnessed by a representative of a women's group or organization. Despite our best efforts, women represented just 16% of negotiators or delegates in the peace process led or co-led by the United Nations. We live in a male-dominated world with a male-dominated culture. Centuries of patriarchy are a massive obstacle to gender equality and, in turn, to a culture of peace. Around the world, women's rights are under attack, so are the people that defend them. At least 7 women who briefed this Council last year report facing reprisals for having done so. Violence against women, both on and offline, is endemic, a massive barrier and disincentive to participation in civil and political life. At the current rate of progress, it will be almost another half-century before women are fairly represented in national parliaments. Addressing this is not a favor to women. It's a matter of rights, justice, and pragmatism. Standing with women is good for the world. We know processes involving women lead to more enduring peace. We know gender-equal parliaments are more likely to increase spending on health, education, and social protection, and reduce corruption. Mr. President, there are pockets of hope. This year's report shows good practices and success stories on the women, peace and security agenda from around the world. From gender parity in Colombia's peace negotiations, to perpetrators of sexual violence in Iraq, Syria, and the Central African Republic being brought to justice. The United Nations is committed to working with countries to drive progress on women, peace, and security. Our operations are supporting women, highlighting their vital work and amplifying their voices. The Women's Peace and Humanitarian Fund of the United Nations has supported more than 1,000 local women's organizations since it was established in 2016. And we have made progress towards gender balance within peacekeeping missions. But overall, when it comes to women, peace and security, the world must urgently bridge the gap between rhetoric and reality. This annual debate regularly has the longest speakers list of the year, but concrete progress is slow, stagnant, or even going backwards. We need to implement the Women, Peace and Security agenda in full now, because women have had enough of being shut out of the decisions that shape their lives, enough of their work going unrecognized, enough of threats and violences, enough of promises left unfulfilled. Women demand concrete actions to make real strides forward. First, that means steps to ensure women are in the room for peace talks. I encourage governments supporting conflict mediation to set ambitious targets for women on negotiating teams. Second, it means money on the table. If you want to stand with women driving change, if you want to support women enduring conflict, if you want to remove barriers to participation, and if you want women's organizations to deliver, we need to pay for it. Yet, the latest figures show aid funding for gender equality in conflict failing. I urge countries providing overseas development assistance, or ODA, to allocate 15% to gender equality. 15% of funds for mediation work must support women's participation. I also call on countries providing ODA to allocate 1% at the bare minimum to direct assistance to women's organizations mobilizing for peace. By the end of 2025, the Women's Peace and Humanitarian Fund Invest in Women campaign aims to raise $300 million. I urge you to throw yourselves behind these efforts. Third, we need concrete measures to secure women's full, equal, and meaningful participation at all levels of decision-making on peace and security and all levels of political and civil life. That means pushing fair representation in national and local governments, cabinets, and parliaments. I was a prime minister and leader of a political party. I know quotas, targets, and incentives work. We need robust, comprehensive legislation to tackle violence against women, both on and offline, and to put an end to impunity for perpetrators. And we need to make the most of the Summit of the Future next year to push for progress on women, peace, and security. The summit is a chance to reform and revitalize multilateralism so that it meets the challenges of today. In preparation, the policy brief on a new agenda for peace puts women's leadership and participation at the center of decision-making. I urge you to consider its proposals carefully. Mr. President, amidst the world in chaos, the clock is ticking down to 25th anniversary of Resolution 1325. A quarter century is ample time to make progress. We need to translate the energy, commitment, and focus in this room into change on the ground and money on the table. No more stalling, no more coasting, no more delays. We need to back the change makers whose images we proudly display outside this building starting today. The state of the world demands it, and women and girls rightly expect nothing less, and I thank you.